Most people grow up believing a simple idea: free markets are natural, that if governments step aside and let people trade freely, prosperity will emerge on its own. Sounds logical. Feels intuitive. And because it feels intuitive, it rarely gets questioned. But here's the uncomfortable truth history keeps revealing. Truly free markets have never existed. Not once. Not anywhere. Not now, not in the past, and not even in the systems that proudly claim to defend them. Every market you've ever seen was designed, enforced, protected, and shaped by power. Laws decide what can be owned. Courts decide who wins disputes. Police and armies protect property rights. Borders decide who can trade and who cannot. Currency is issued by states. Contracts are enforced by governments. Without these structures, markets don't function. They collapse. What we call free markets are not natural systems like weather or gravity. They are human constructions built deliberately and usually built to benefit someone. The myth of free markets didn't come from ancient wisdom or universal truth. It was born out of political necessity. In the 18th and 19th centuries, Europe wasn't dominated by open competition. It was ruled by mercantilism. Kings granted monopolies. Trade routes were controlled by empires. Corporations like the East India Company didn't just trade goods. They governed territories, raised armies, and collected taxes. These were not market outcomes. They were power arrangements. And when critics began pointing out how destructive these systems were, defenders of wealth needed a cleaner story, something less violent, something that sounded moral. That story became the idea of the free market. Over time, the phrase evolved into a kind of economic religion. If markets succeed, it's proof of freedom. If they fail, it's blamed on interference. The market itself is never questioned. But when you look closely, every so-called free market is full of rules that benefit those with influence. Regulations don't disappear. They simply shift. They are rewritten by the powerful, for the powerful, and sold to everyone else as neutrality. Take monopolies. We're told monopolies are failures of capitalism, not features of it. But history shows the opposite. When competition is left unchecked, the strongest players don't coexist peacefully. They crush rivals, like competitors, control supply chains, influence laws, and reshape markets in their favor. This isn't corruption of the system. It is the system following incentives. And once dominance is achieved, the loudest defenders of free markets suddenly demand protection from competition. They lobby for patents, subsidies, bailouts, and legal shields. Freedom for them, risk for everyone else. The idea that markets regulate themselves assumes power distributes itself evenly. It doesn't. Power concentrates. Capital attracts more capital. Influence attracts more influence. And once power concentrates enough, markets stop being competitive arenas and become controlled environments. Prices stop reflecting supply and demand. They reflect strategy. Wages stop reflecting productivity. They reflect bargaining power. Innovation slows not because creativity disappears, but because disruption threatens those already on top. Look at modern tech platforms. They call themselves marketplaces, but they set the rules, control visibility, collect data, shape behavior, and decide who survives. They are not neutral platforms. They are private governments operating without democratic accountability. And yet, when regulation is proposed, the same argument appears: don't interfere with the free market. But what market is free when one entity controls the infrastructure everyone depends on? The deeper truth is this: markets don't fail because governments exist. They fail because power goes unchecked. And sometimes government is the only force capable of checking that power. The question is never market or government. That's a false choice. The real question is who writes the rules, who enforces them, and who benefits from them. Throughout history, every major economic expansion relied heavily on state intervention. Railroads were built with public land and subsidies. The internet came from government research. Modern finance depends on central banks and legal systems. Even globalization relies on trade agreements enforced by political power. Yet the success of these systems is later attributed to the market alone, while the costs are socialized and the profits privatized. The myth of free markets survives because it's useful. It shifts responsibility. When inequality rises, it's framed as merit. When workers struggle, it's framed as personal failure. When corporations dominate, it's framed as efficiency. And when crises hit, the same institutions that preach non-intervention suddenly demand rescue. Losses become public. Gains remain private. This isn't freedom. It's selective accountability. Perhaps the most dangerous part of the free market myth is how it discourages imagination. If markets are natural and self-correcting, then alternatives are unnatural. Regulation becomes tyranny. Reform becomes interference. Democracy becomes a threat. The system becomes sacred, and questioning it becomes heresy. That's not economics, that's ideology. History doesn't show us that markets fail without government. It shows us that markets always operate within power structures. The only variable is whether those structures are transparent and accountable, or hidden and unchallengeable. A market shaped by democratic rules can distribute opportunity. A market shaped by concentrated power distributes dominance. There is no invisible force ensuring fairness, no natural law preventing abuse, no automatic balance restoring justice. Those outcomes only happen when societies choose them, enforce them, and defend them. Markets don't create morality, people do, and pretending otherwise has allowed inequality to grow quietly, efficiently, and legally. Free markets are not a destination, they are a story. And like all powerful stories, they reveal less about how the world works and more about who benefits from believing they do.